Hi, Markai here and welcome to my next video. Today we're gonna change things up a little bit. It's not gonna be my usual blueprint tutorial, but I mean it's all game dev in Unreal Engine, so I think it will be useful. Also, I record, of course, those videos for me for future reference. So yeah, what I'm talking about today is Metasounds. I've been playing with Metasounds recently. I've been trying to make some kind of cool looping system, and I realized that it's not that simple. I mean, it's not hard, but it's very much not obvious how you get to that sort of manual looping point, because the automatic loops are pretty easy. Like you just check a boolean box and yeah, and the wave repeats. But if you want to make some sort of music player that plays, you know, random sounds, and maybe you have multiple libraries of those songs, then it becomes a little bit tricky. Not too much, so it's gonna be a pretty quick video. We're gonna explore how that works. So what I'm doing, testing 5.6, I'm running on Unreal Engine 5.6, of course, the usual third-person template, nothing crazy going on there. I just disabled the stage tree from the previous video. And what I'm gonna be using is just, you know, level blueprint, go here, level VP, just so we can play the sound. And for the sound, let's make a new Metasound source. Let's call it MS and loop test video for video or tutorial, whatever. And we're gonna do it from scratch, so you'll see how it's done step by step. I'm gonna explain a few things. Of course, if you're interested in the subject of Metasounds, you can write the comment down below that you're interested, what kind of things you would like to learn from Metasounds. I think it's a pretty interesting system they made. So I'll be down to make some more videos if you have some ideas. For now, looping sounds. How does that work? Basically, if you have a looping sound or any type of sound, you always start with a wave player, of course. You can pick multiple types of a wave player, but usually you want to pick mono, unless you have some sort of, you know, special sounds, surround sounds, then sure. But I don't even know if the engine supports something above stereo. You can check this. Not here, source. Where is this? Oh, here it is, of course. First entry. You have mono. Yeah. It now supports up to surround sound, so you can go all the way up to 7.1. But yeah, usually just stick to mono or stereo if you have some kind of sound design for, you know, two speakers. For wave player mono, you just pick a wave player. Let's say just that sine tone pink because it plays, it's first. And yeah, you can plug unfinished when it's unfinished, but this will be never called because we're gonna tag loop. If it was not looping, then when that wave player plays, then it just calls unfinished and it auto destroys the sound. Of course, it's dependent on the option. You can check auto destroy, but if you uncheck, which is not default, it's usually auto destroying the sound itself. But if you turn this off, then it won't destroy the sound when this is called. Okay, but usually just leave it on. And yeah, of course, let's swap the asset for loop test for video. So it's gonna play and leave this as default. Let's mark this loop. This one little input is basically this. So it's a common interface for the Unreal to call play on audio. So this node will be called. And you can, of course, do manual calling, but you'll need a custom node for this. Next time, okay? Let's just plug this in. And out mono is basically our sound, like sound wave, I guess. And you put this to mono. This is your sound. If this is empty, then no sound will come out of the Metasound. So let's save. Let's see if that works. Let's see if the single sound works, so without a loop. Yeah, the sound played. And for looping, of course, you can mark this true, save, play, and it just loops. Lovely. But now, let's try to expand this a little, right? The very common example of trying to do a manual loop is if you have some kind of library of sounds. So maybe it's an input. Let's call it lib1. It's going to be an array and wave asset. So array of wave assets. And you kind of want to shuffle the playlist. You want to take a random wave from that, so you take random get, of course, pretty easy. You can plug this to next to play, and value to wave asset. And now what, right? Because you kind of on play get a random wave, and then you go to wave player with that audio, and then it plays. But if that is checked, then it will just repeat the same wave over and over again, right? Let's also add some sounds to that lib1, so we have something to check.
I am a meta.
Camera shutter, I guess, sounds okay, and click on button. I think it's you can differentiate between those two sounds. And yeah, let's I mean, I'm gonna show you that it doesn't work. Yeah, that's one sound. The random, it got on play and is just, you know, stuck in that little loop. So for continuously trying to randomize the sound it is playing, we have to kind of loop back manually to that node. So we unchecked the loop, and normally you would think, okay, the unfinished should just go to the next, right? Wrong, because the connection causes a loop, which is interesting because we actually want to create a loop, but the Metasound doesn't really like it, okay? So yeah. Also, if we are doing a loop, then we probably don't need that one-shot interface because we don't really want to check it. We can, I mean, this is used for sounds that you just play and they destroy themselves and it's all nice and dandy. But if you have some sort of maybe soundtrack or other effects that just play for indefinite amount of time, then just keep that interface, and you don't need that node to connect then. So one thing you could maybe think of is making a reroute. So you could make a reroute by doing this and promote to graph variable. It's sort of a reroute, but it's called differently in every graph, I guess. In blueprints, it's a reroute. In materials, it's a named reroute. And in Metasounds, it's just a trigger variable. Okay. So now when we pick this, oh, it's a loop again. Oh no. So now what? Well, there is one thing that it's not very well presented to you that you can do this, but you can make a different type of reroute, I guess. And it's not from here, because if you sort of, you know, drag this out, then you have only two options, graph output and graph variable. But what we want is actually a graph variable deferred, because it kind of plays on the next block of the audio. How do you do this? Well, you just drag from the next, and you do have that option, promote to graph variable deferred. And now, when this next is called, this is gonna play, and this is something that we can set right here on finished, and it now works and doesn't yell at you. Very, very nice. So now we have a little issue, another issue, that we cannot really connect one thing to the other without, you know, the other just vanishing. So we need another node that is called trigger any, which basically merges those two triggers into one. So if either of those plays, then it just outputs them. You could, I guess, say this is annoying, I guess, maybe. Like you could just allow us to plug those two triggers into one slot like it's in blueprints, but I mean, Metasounds are something different, I guess. So this works, and this should play a random sound every time this sound finishes. Let's just test this out. Yeah, that's a new sound. Lovely. We can also debug this. So if you want to print the name of the wave to see if it's really a different sound, then you can just do print log, plug this, and now, you know, this is not like event in blueprints. You can plug this to multiple different outputs, right? It doesn't have to go into one direction. You can just branch it, and let's call it lib1, and value to log will be functions debug wave info name, right? Let's save this and play. Yeah, click on button, camera shutter, click. Lovely, it randomizes, okay? And okay, that's a working example, but I've got another bonus thing for you. What if you had multiple libraries? Because maybe you don't really want to use the one library, or maybe, let's consider an example, you want one sort of sound from one set be played on entry, and then another sound be played on like in second in the queue, right? Then what? Because you need two libraries. Let's just make a new library. It's gonna be called library 2, and swap those sounds for something different, of course. Maybe sine, I guess, and maybe, holy shit, enter play maybe. So we have two different libraries. We have library 1, library 2, and we want to randomize between those, right? So we kind of have to copy this. So let's copy. And this will be using a library 2. This will be called lib2, of course. Still gonna get the wave info, but we'll know if the lib is 2 or 1. And for mono, we just want to, we can't really connect two mono sounds. We have to blend them or mix. So we just do mono mixer 2, have those two, in, out, and this is done. But now the other quirk with Metasounds, if you're gonna work with Metasounds a little bit, then you realize, okay, variables are cool, but they are also annoying because you cannot trigger like the same reroute twice, right? So if you try to plug unfinished to that, then it's just gonna replace. And if you want to copy and paste this, oh, node cannot be passed. Only one variable setter node is possible. Like another quirk of Metasounds. But to get around this, we kind of have to do like next one. and then we need to duplicate next 2, and then do set on finished, and then make a different trigger. So trigger any, that's gonna be where is it? 3. And then we plug our next 2 right here. So now we have 2 libraries. Each kind of has a different set. And now we have to decide how it decides, right, which way it wants to go. If you want to make a loop that sort of goes from one to another, then you can go with, what was that? Some kind of trigger, but what was that? Not repeat, because repeat is a node that will just trigger with a set period. It's not select, or is it select? No. Okay, give me a moment. I'm gonna pause and find it so I don't take the more of time of this video. Okay, I'm back. I found it. It's called trigger counter, and it basically works like if you have multiple libraries and you just want to go from one to another and back to, you know, the start if you have 2, and if you have 5, then of course 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and back to 0, then you can use the trigger counter, very lovely. You input the number of libraries you want to go through, and on trigger you just compare this float, do on trigger compare to whatever you want. In my case, of course, it's just 2, so we can compare on equals. If that is equal to 0, then we can go here, and if it's false, then we go here, right? So that's for my case. And another thing that you could do is just trigger compare on integer. So you just get random integer, compare on integer, and of course true, false. So that's binary. But there is also another way, a little bit, you know, faster. This one is more precise because you can, you know, type specific values for this. But for just a simple solution for you, if you have multiple libraries, you just, you know, first, second, third, and back to first, then there is a very nice node called trigger sequence, and then it automatically loops. You go here, out, this. Okay, what you just saw is my mistake, little mistake. I just corrected it to when I was paused. I forgot to, you know, make this deferred, of course, because if you duplicate the trigger and then you just, you know, get it, then it's not deferred. I kinda missed that, my mistake. Make sure you remember about this. Remember this. So don't duplicate your triggers, especially if it's you know, a trigger. Just drag out, promote to graph variable deferred, and it's gonna be deferred. So I swapped next 2 for deferred, and okay. Once again, deferred. That's gonna be next 2. And then next 2 goes here, right, on finished. And now it should work. So out 1, next, right, out 3, also how many libraries we have. But let's just do so, trigger sequence 2 and replug. And let's see how that works. Yeah, for a moment I thought it doesn't work, but just that play is kind of scuffed. I mean, it takes a long time to finish. But yeah, it works. Trigger sequence, very lovely. Also, let me quickly check about trigger select, what that was, because I did that at first, but that's in index. Yeah, we have an index, right? So that's what I was trying to do with the random integer, right? If you don't want to compare the value, so you don't want to do this and just compare to whatever that value is, then you can plug this in to select and then, you know, out 0, out 1, whatever. So that's the basics of looping. I hope you enjoyed that video, a little bit out of the blueprints, but I think it's pretty cool nonetheless. And message for me in the future, of course, I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, that's it. Write the comment down below what you think, if you have any ideas for the future videos, if you like the Metasound video. And that's it. See you next time. Bye bye.